It is with a great honor and sincere pleasure that I welcome you all to the Saudi Geriatric Society Conference, the third one. On behalf of the Society, I extend our warm greetings to every participant, our national and international guests, healthcare professionals, researchers, policymakers, partners, and students who have joined us in the spirit of collaboration and shared purposes. As we gather today, we recognize that population aging is accelerating within Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and in the world. And with it comes growing need for high quality, compassionate, evidence-based care for older adults. The mission of geriatrics is not only to treat disease, but to preserve dignity, independence, functional ability, and the quality of life, so that aging is met with respect and support. This conference brings together experts and innovators to exchange knowledge, share practical solutions, and highlight research that can improve care of older adults in Saudi Arabia and globally. I commend everyone who contributed to shaping this program, from our scientific committee to our organizing team and the speakers, whose effort ensure that discussions will be meaningful and impactful. Let us take this opportunity not only to listen, but to learn from one another, form connections, and most importantly, translate ideas into actions that strengthen geriatric services, education, and research. Once again, welcome to all of you. May your time with us be productive, inspiring, and memorable. Thank you. Now it's time to start our first session. تفضل دكتور تركي.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid. يعطيكم العافية.
الله يعافيك.
So, Assalamu alaikum جميعا. Good morning all, and a great Saturday for everyone. We will be starting our third geriatric annual conference with a theme of innovation, technology, and the future of aging. That will be moderated by myself and my colleague, Dr. Sulaiman Kassar. So please join me in welcoming our first esteemed speaker, Professor Hanadi Al-Hamid, who is the Deputy Chief Medical Officer for Long-Term Care, Rehabilitation and Geriatrics at Hamad Medical Corporation, and as well the head of WHO Collaboration Center for Healthy Aging and Dementia at Qatar, who will be talking to us about the keynote presentation from healthy aging strategy to system transformation. The virtual floor is yours, Professor Hanadi. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Turki, and thank you, Dr. Khalid, for this invitation, and all organizer committee. Allow me please to share my presentation. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. So thank you, distinguished colleagues, and really, Dr. Khalid, thank you for this invitation. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here today with you. I'd like to use this session to speak about something that is becoming one of the general and healthcare challenges for our time. You'll find me a little bit emotional in between because, you know, when it comes to elderly and geriatric services, I'm so much emotional, and I'm sure most of the geriatricians and who work with elderly across the GCC, they have the same feeling. Across GCC and globally, population are living longer than ever before. But longevity alone is no longer the real success. The real success is where people can continue to live with function, cognition, independence, dignity, and this requires to think about the system we design for our loved elderly. It is affect community, ecosystem, and family workforce planning and national development itself. Here in the state of Qatar, this realization, and we recognize the importance of aging and dignity as part of global health. Transformation that connect policy, healthcare, rehabilitation, brain health, community care prevention. Today, my presentation, I will focus on different lessons here from Qatar, and of course, I will learn from Saudi Arabia and other GCC countries. The disclosure I have that, as I mentioned, I'm much emotional and connected to the elderly services. This is my high-level learning objective. When we speak about aging, we are not speaking only about older adults. We are speaking about the maturity of an entire health system, because almost every weakness in healthcare becomes visible through aging system. Fragmentation, delay care, poor coordination, lack of prevention, and loss of function. And perhaps this is the real shift happening globally. Longevity alone is no longer enough. As one of my colleagues once said, adding years to life is easy compared to adding life to years. Healthy longevity is not created by one hospital or one specialty. It is created when policy, healthcare workforce, rehabilitation, families, communities begin work together across all intersectorial and helping each other to have healthy aging. Qatar, one of the GCC country, and here in Qatar, one of the most important moments in our journey was when we stopped looking for aging as a future issue. Because the demographic transition and shift started, and from that point, we start to think how we can do shift in our service. And with that one came an important realization. People were living longer, but not always living healthier. The gap between life expectancy, as you see in this graph, and healthy life expectancy was growing. And the gap represents something very human. Years affected by frailty, functional decline, dependency, cognitive impairment, and caregiver burden. Of course, it's one of the important pillars we are facing. So the question for us, it became, how do we preserve function, independence, and dignity for longer? That is what healthy aging moved from being a clinical decision to becoming system responsibility. So in phase one, and this happened long years back, it happened in 2016, when I tried to decide and think how I can do little transformation in my country, of course, with the input of my colleague. Once we understand the scale of the challenge, the next question became, where do we start? So it was a dilemma for me, how I will start, where to start. So the transformation cannot begin with expansion. Transformation must begin with foundation. So I realized it's the foundation that to start acute geriatric services, because I realized that many of our loved elderly, they admitted under internal general or general department without a clear plan of care, without multidisciplinary approach. Because older adults with frailty, delirium, fall, multimorbidity, or cognitive decline cannot be managed safely in such environment which they are not locked with a clear model of care. So we focus on building specialized geriatric environment. We are focusing on clear pathway. We focus on clear governance for those elderly admitted, for example, pneumonia or UTI or specific disease, and they are looking for a short period of time to be treated and again discharged to the community. And when the lesson became very important, then I started to spread it across all the tertiary hospital. I started with one hospital and I spread the concept with multidisciplinary approach to several tertiary hospitals since acute geriatric care become, sustained and spread across all tertiary hospitals. Then the other questions will come. As our services matured, and I sustained this one over the last 4 or 5 years, from 2016 till to date, of course. But it took me a while to convince my colleague regarding acute geriatric. As our service mature, another important realization emerged. Good services alone are really not enough, because patients do not experience healthcare as department or specialty. They experience it as a journey. And for older adults, their journey often became fragmented between hospitals, clinic, rehabilitation, home care, and community services. So the second question came, do we have services? Or to move to another question, do we have system? That shift complexity and change my mind, and we move that time from reactive care toward coordinate pathway, design for the complexity, frailty, cognitive decline. So I move to the phase 2 or the second case, looking to the disease. So once the system of acute geriatric I mentioned in phase 1 became very mature, then I moved to the second step. Aging, it's not one condition. So I moved to create with my team very complex specialized services. So here in Qatar, we have excellent cardio-geriatric program. I started over the last 2 years onco-geriatric program. We started also delirium and introduced delirium concept in all ICU here in the country. Ortho-geriatrics program started too. In addition, to mediate and do excellent intervention, I introduced in 2020 something we call it elderly urgent care. It is not emergency, it is very urgent, looking for patients maybe with delirium, new pneumonia, UTI, easy access, age-friendly, elderly urgent care. In addition, we are looking for prevention and preserving, because immediate intervention with disease management, I need prevention. I need to increase the awareness for the community. From there, we start SMS messages to all the community, to all Qatar, to all elderly, 60 years and above, and the caregiver. And these messages align with WHO. At the beginning, it was from our mind as a team. Then we went to WHO. We have clear messages, from awareness, in addition to the service, introducing the service. So we introduce clinic sarcopenia, and we introduce wellness. And this wellness, it's designed for patients who's having cognitive decline after they diagnose through memory clinic, where they will go. What is the next for the MCI cases? What's the next step after the diagnosis? And we have excellent fall prevention program. Looking for a patient may arrive with heart failure, fractional decline, fall, polypharmacy, and cancer survivorship. All the system must be, accommodate all the cases. So we begin to redesign our care and complexity, as you see in this slide, not by creating, just a clinic, by building, integrate through all intersectorial. Because the system recognizes the complexity, and in addition, as emphasized on the preventive measure. Again, I go back to acute geriatric unit. for acute geriatric unit at this point, we made our change. We have multidisciplinary approach and important system that we created. We stop asking only how do we treat disease, and we start to ask how do we preserve function, independency, and quality of life. Because for older adults, the success is not survival alone. It is mobility, cognition, and nutrition, and social connection and participation. That thinking aligned strongly with age-friendly health system. And for your information, health or age-friendly health system, it is 4 pillars. When the patient or elderly admitted to the acute geriatric unit, we asking the patient or his relative, what's matter? Maybe this elderly, he's not interested to stay with us, for 7 days if we are treating pneumonia. So what's matter to you? After stabilization, maybe he's looking for early discharge. So we can plan early discharge and continuation antibiotic at home with home healthcare team. Medication reconciliation and polypharmacy, one of the pillar affect, any patient admitted to acute setting. So medication, looking for delirium, underlying dementia and depression. In addition, this under mentation titled and mobility. I always tell my team, I'm not looking for the patient admitted to be run, and do marathon jump. No, the patient just maintain what the physical independency he admit and preserve it. So, alhamdulillah, in Qatar, we certify to be age-friendly health system for all acute services by IHI, and also all our team trained related to age-friendly health system. In addition, of course, there is measure, and we managed to introduce it through electronic health system. So we invest heavily in creating age-friendly, and today most of our facility is certified as age-friendly health system. For the previous slide for age-friendly, there is outcome. It is not matter of certification and looking for M's. If you will go and read more about age-friendly, for the leader, same Dr. Khalid, you will find, length of stay will be reduced. Mortality related, it's much less. Morbidity, so a lot of outcome measures indicator if you introduce age-friendly. Once the foundation and we establish excellent system, as I mentioned at the beginning, the next challenge, how we can sustain it. How we can sustain what we achieve. How do we have to move healthy aging from successful program into national direction? Because for sustainability, as you're aware, you need a policymaker to buy it. You need a national strategy to direct for a healthy aging. And this was one big challenge I faced till National Health Strategy 2018-22. They introduced healthy aging as one of the important pillars. I think I was lucky, because without mentioning healthy aging as a part of the pillar National Health Strategy, I think the sustainability and policy evolution, maybe it will be a little bit difficult. And this where the policy became critically important. One of the most important lessons, as I mentioned, healthy aging. Healthy aging, it became part of National Health Strategy, focus on building foundation, maintaining acute geriatric, what I established it, looking more for integration. They focus also on that strategy on community rehabilitation and age-friendly, not in healthcare sector only, age-friendly to be in the communities. Then we finished the strategy. I thought the country, they will stop thinking about healthy aging, but I was lucky. Moving on the new strategy, which it is 2020-2030, National Health Strategy 3, healthy aging evolved further. Not as healthy aging, it became embedded across the wider health agenda as titled community care. In addition to digitalization, primary healthcare, workforce planning, which was missing on the previous strategy, and focusing more on health prevention and health promotion. In other words, aging was no longer treated as a separated specialty. It became a line through which the entire health system begin to redesign itself, and that one continuation of aging and long-term system, evolving. So, and sometimes very interesting to started to happen and understand the system maturity locally. Their impact begin expanding beyond the national border, because when we country builds practice model that work for Qatar, I'm sure it will work for other country, especially GCC country. And we started to share some experience with GCC country, especially when WHO, they recognize the state of Qatar and my department as WHO Collaborative Center for Aging and Dementia. And was one of my responsibility to knowledge exchange and regional collaboration and try to contribute to WHO, especially the Emirates country. This contribution, it also increased my knowledge, because I learned from the other country. I learned good practice from other countries, and we start to speak in GCC and the Emirates country, and annually, yearly, we have forum or meeting through either focusing on aging or focusing on dementia. And from this, from implementation, looking for building real system across all GCC and Emirates countries. As the system evolves, and we also learn another important lesson: good intention are not enough. If you are truly want to transform aging system, you must first willing to measure reality and honesty. And sometimes that really, it is not easy, but with WHO support, I managed to start NASC. NASC is abbreviation for National Aging Survey, aligned with WHO Gap Survey. It is evidence-based, and it shows your scale of maturity for your system, looking for functional decline, of course, some demographic in the country, cognitive impairment, social vulnerability, and future demographic and projection. And some finding really, when I have the survey, it was painful, but that create clarity for me to support on the future planning. Clarity and the result of the NASC help shift discussion from opinion to evidence. So I have more evidence to convince the policymaker for sustainability of aging framework, planning to coordinate policy, and from isolated services to system designed for elderly. Because we get some measures, and we measure in Qatar the level of intrinsic capacity. Again, with the collaboration with WHO, one of the strengths for our journey, we did not try to reinvent everything alone, learning from and add our culture framework to that one. ICOP, I'm sure you heard about ICOP. ICOP is a screening tool for anyone 60 years and above. And ICOP, they have different domain of mobility, cognition, nutrition, and the mood, vision, and hearing. If you capture anyone 60 years and above early through primary healthcare, can support, doing some intervention for the elderly who fit to this domain, and of course they will age more healthier. So here in Qatar, we introduced ICO. I managed to spread it across all the primary healthcare system, and we did the training for our colleague primary healthcare. We give them, a structured way to move from episodic toward integrated, to focus on person-centered care, and also, to detect any failure in domain earlier. We spread ICOP to 7 countries in Emirates, and we are also reviewer for second version of ICOP. Dementia. My journey with dementia started in 2014. And in that time, dementia, it was a huge stigma. I'm sure many countries in GCC, they are facing the same problem. Breaking the stigma through health awareness and increased awareness and important, and labeling dementia as brain disease, support me on spreading dementia concept in the country. One of the pillars when I started the journey, I started as memory services and to have national dementia plan here in the country. And Qatar considered one of the country across all Emirates signed with the Global Dementia Observatory under WHO, which they support us to have the framework from introducing early diagnosis to intervention, caregiver support, and many pillars under Dementia Global Observatory. So the conclusion for Dementia program, now we have clear framework. We are working here in the country and support and dedicated budget supported by National Ministry of Health. So with this hard work, we introduced it through Global Dementia Observatory and Qatar National Dementia Plan. We managed to have clear training capacity building for our colleague in primary healthcare. Almost we trained 300 colleagues related to delirium, dementia, and depression. We built a lot of also workforce training for caregiver who's taking care of their elderly. We support the caregiver, education and awareness. The conclusion of this hard work, we managed to have accreditation by Memory Services National Accreditation Program as Qatar, the first country outside UK. They certified as Muslim, and it was excellent achievement, and really appreciate the work and hard work from my colleague. We managed to have dementia champion in all the facility. The concept of dementia now, it's not burden, not anymore stigma. We build the trust here in the country related to dementia service. We are moving also to digitalization, and we are moving also to build more trust in the community here in Qatar with the clinical trial. We are moving now to introduce biological treatment as one of, or many countries in the GCC starting maybe biological, but I started as a clinical trial here. So all the pillars from prevention to the treatment, caregiver support, digitalization under National Dementia Plan. So at this stage, the transformation became bigger than a hospital. We began asking ourselves, what does a true healthy aging ecosystem look like? Because healthy aging cannot be delivered by healthcare alone. It requires policy, community support, early detection, continuation of care, data system, workforce development, of course, dementia care, all working together around this person. Qatar started building connected ecosystem, and older person should not feel they are moving through disconnected services. They should experience one coordinated journey from prevention to acute care, community rehabilitation, active inpatient rehabilitation, excellent community services, and perhaps this one of the bigger lessons we learned: healthy aging success when system, communities, family, they are moved in the same decision and the same direction. Next step, and this is what I start from beginning of this year. Once strong systems are in place, the next question becomes even more important. What kind of future we are designing for our population as they age? Because success is no longer measured simply by lifespan. The real goal is preserving intrinsic capacity, as I mentioned earlier, functional performance, cognition, resilience, and independence across the entire life course. And importantly, many of the biological and functional change related to aging do not suddenly begin at older age. Recent research shows that decline in areas such as muscle strength, Metabolic reserve, cognition can start by age of 30s. Instead, this is why we started referring the conversation, and instead of focusing only on longevity, we introduce here in Qatar concept of functional longevity. Longevity that is not defined simply by years lived, but also defined as longer that can you remain active, engaged, powerful, and live with dignity and independence. This is where precision geriatrics we are introducing here in the country, brain health concept, digital biomarkers, and predictive care become critically important because the future of healthy aging is not anymore reactive. It is proactive, preventive, personalized, and functional focused.
Thank you so much, Doctora. This is, I'm pretty sure there is, I mean, it's very rich presentation and we have a lot to learn, but I'm pretty sure that we have extra time during the final session of moderation. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you so much. And I invite you to join us in this October for International Congress on Healthy Aging and Geriatric face-to-face here in Qatar. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you so much. It's definitely a great topic, and it has shifted my mindset from good services to the right system. So it's amazing. Thank you. Second session, please join me in welcoming our dear colleague, Dr. Asim Abdul Qadir, who holds multiple administrative and leadership positions, including executive leader and chair of multiple entities, including Professional Development Committee at the Saudi Geriatric Society and Imam Abdurrahman bin Faisal University, who will be speaking to us about physiology of aging and longevity science, innovations shaping the future of geriatric care. Dr. Asim, please, the floor is.
Thank you so much, Dr. Turki, for the introduction. I'd like to thank the organizers and the society for organizing this great event. So imagine you have two patients in front of you. Both are 72 years old, same birth certificate, same calendar age, but one of them walks into your clinic without assistance, manages her own medications, and has a gait speed of 1.1 meter per second. The other arrives in a wheelchair, is on 8 medications, and has lost 3 activities of daily living. Same chronological age, 23 years apart biologically. Today, I want to talk to you about why that gap exists and what the science of aging now tells us what we can do about it.
دكتور عاصم ممكن حضرتك تعمل share screen presentation؟
It's already sharing. Clear now?
Now it's clear, I can see it.
Yeah, okay. So the title says, Innovations Shaping the Future of Geriatric Care. I want to be precise. This is not about the distant future. The science I will share with you today is already entering our clinical labs and trials, and if we choose, our practice. The 2023 Nature Aging study demonstrated partial epigenetic reprogramming in human cells using several factors, reversing DNA methylation age markers. And when we say reversed here, it means the epigenetic clocks can be run backward, not simply paused. This is the distinction that made it a landmark study. The lead researchers built on David Sinclair's lab work at Harvard on the information of theory of aging, the idea that aging is primarily a loss of epigenetic information, not irreversible DNA damage. Saudi Arabia's 60+ population, nowadays approximately 3 million, is projected to triple to about 9 million by 2050. And we are the first generation of clinicians practicing while the biology of aging is being rewritten. So the science is moving faster than our clinical framework. And to understand where innovation is taking us, we first need to share the map of a terrain, the biological mechanisms of aging itself. Let me take you through that map right now. So I have organized today's talk into 3 lenses. First, the science, and we'll look into what is actually happening inside aging cells, grounded in the most current framework we have. Second, the innovation. AI-powered tools now measuring biological age with clinical-grade precision. And third, the transformation. What this means for us, for our patients, and for Saudi Arabia's health strategy. 1 talk, 3 lenses. Let's start with the science. So the 12 hallmarks of aging updated the original 9 hallmarks of aging from 2013, shows us 3 tiers of framework, as you can see in the screen: primary drivers, amplifiers, and integrators. I'll go through them briefly. So for primary drivers, genomic instability, meaning accumulation of DNA damage from oxidative stress, radiation, and replication errors. Telomere attrition, that happens when telomeres hit a critical length, the cells enter senescence or apoptosis. Epigenetic alterations, which are basically changes in how genes are expressed. This is the most reversible hallmark, and hence reprogramming interest that we hear nowadays. And finally, loss of proteostasis, which is basically failure of protein quality control, misfold proteins accumulations, and so forth. And a classic example of that is Alzheimer's amyloid and Parkinson's alpha-synuclein. Now moving to amplifiers, which manifest as systemic dysfunction. It starts with deregulated nutrient sensing. This happens through several molecular mechanisms, but finally linking caloric restrictions with what's called rapamycin. And that intersects a lot with longevity. Mitochondrial dysfunction, we all know that mitochondria is responsible for ATP. So when the efficiency of ATP is reduced, there's increase in and also increased in reactive oxygen species and free radical production. The cells enter a vicious cycle of energy failure and oxidative damage. Next is cellular senescence. When cells stop dividing but refuse to die, it secretes inflammatory cytokines that poisons neighboring tissue. And that is the link between senescence and inflammation that we're going to talk about in a minute. And finally, for amplifiers, stem cell exhaustion. That happens when there is reduced regenerative capacity, and we can see it in the form of decline in wound healing, tissue maintenance, and immune reconstitution. Finally, the third part of the hallmarks of aging, integrators. And this is manifested as systemic consequences. Most importantly and notably is inflammation. Inflammation is a chronic low-grade sterile inflammation, where there's chronic elevation of interleukin-6, tumor necrotic factor alpha, and CRP. The driver of frailty, as we see it, atherosclerosis, and neurodegeneration. Dysbiosis, that is happening in our gut when the microbiome diversity declines with age, and that feeds into the systemic inflammation. Disabled macroautophagy. This is when the cells lose their ability to recycle damaged organelles. So cellular debris accumulates. And finally, altered intercellular communications. That happens when hormonal and paracrine signaling deteriorates. For example, the decline in NAD+, which we're hearing a lot about recently. So every geriatric syndrome we treat, whether it's frailty, sarcopenia, cognitive decline, polypharmacy burden, has a mechanistic root in at least one of these hallmarks. When we treat frailty, we are, whether we know it or not, targeting inflammation and stem cell exhaustion. Knowing the hallmarks is the science, but the revolution in care requires that we measure them. That when we move from asking how old is the patient to asking how old are their cells. That is where biological age comes in. Here is the architecture visually. Notice how the primary drivers cascade into the amplifiers, and how the integrators, particularly inflammaging, are where we see the clinical consequences in our patients. Keep this map in mind as we discuss measurements and interventions shortly. So here's the most important clinical distinction in modern geriatrics. 2 patients, same birth year. Patient A with a biological age of 61, he's independent, walks faster than 1 meter per second, has a grip strength in a healthy range. On the other hand, patient B with a biological age of 84, he cannot manage 3 of his activities of daily living. He takes 8 medications and moves at half of his speed. That 23 biological gap is not a genetic fate. It reflects decades of differential exposure to the hallmarks that we just discussed: differential inflammation, differential proteostasis, and differential stem cell reserve. Our obligation as clinicians is to stop making decisions based on the chronological number and start seeing the biological story. Chronological age is a timestamp. Biological age is our story, and clinical care must reflect biology, not chronology. If biological age is so clinically meaningful, how do we measure it? That is the question 3 generations of science have been racing to answer, and AI has just changed the game. Now let's go through these generations briefly. The first generation back in 2013, when Steve Horvath at UCLA identified 353 CpG methylation sites across the genome, whose methylation patterns predict chronological age with remarkable accuracy. This is, as a matter of fact, is limited by the fact that it's a single modality using DNA methylation only, and it has tissue-specific variation. There is no dynamic tracking of age rate. It is still used as a measure of biological chronological age gap in research, and with a gap of 5 or more years predicts elevated mortality risk. 5 years later comes the second generation with Grimage and Dunedin Pace. These combine blood plasma proteins with methylation, independently predict time to death stronger than any other prior clock. Dunedin Pace, using Dunedin birth cohort study, measures the pace of aging and basically answers the question how fast someone is aging right now, not just where they are. So 1 Dunedin Pace unit equals aging 1 year per calendar year. So any values above 1, it equals accelerated aging. It is important to know that Dunedin Pace has been used as a primary endpoint in senolytic trials, testing dasatinib and quercetin, and in the GLP-1 receptor agonist longevity studies. This means it is already functioning as a clinical trial biomarker. 5 years later, in 2022 and beyond, we are living the multimodal AI clock generation, which basically integrates multi-omics, genomics, epigenomics, proteomics, and metabolomics, in addition to medical imaging and wearable biometric streams. This produces organ-specific aging profile. Your liver may be aging faster than your brain. This granularity enables precision prevention. So blood-based biological age panels are entering the commercial labs as we speak. And we're here right now at the inflection points between the second and third generation. The question facing every clinician is not whether these tools will reach the primary care. It is whether we will understand them well enough to use them responsibly when they do. Now, let me show you how these AI platforms actually look like in practice and what clinical intelligence they can deliver that our current assessment tools simply cannot. Now, here are some examples where there is integration between omics, imaging, clinical data, and wearables. For example, deep longevity. This has been developed at Hong Kong-based Insolic Medicine. It produces organ-specific aging clocks for the liver, heart, brain, immune system, and metabolic. PhenoAge integrates the 9 biomarker that the clinical lab panel provides, which is accessible today with no special equipment. It is not yet in routine clinical deployment, but used in longitudinal studies. Retinal AI in UK Biobank study, a single fundus photograph analyzed by deep learning can estimate a person's retinal age. And then we calculate the retinal age gap, which is the retinal age minus chronological age. It independently predicts all-cause and cardiovascular mortality. This turns a routine eye exam into a longevity biomarker. Another example is Elysium Biological Index. Commercial blood test using DNA methylation from a blood sample produces biological age in addition to Dunedin Pace score. This has been validated in more than 5,000 individuals, and it is available in the United States, direct-to-consumer version of Generation 2 clocks. Finally, as another example is Aura and Humanity. It's a consumer-facing platforms combining wearable data where it includes the heart rate variability, sleep, activity, in addition to blood biomarkers and lifestyle inputs. It produces a dynamic age rate dashboard, which allows users to see how interventions affect their aging pace in near real time. So it provides an insight with a lifestyle responsive manner where you can see exercise interventions, dietary changes, stress reduction, all show measurable signals within weeks. It's important to know the nuances here, and none of these are yet validated for clinical decision making in the way that hemoglobin A1C or estimated GFR. Frame them as emerging tools, not as a standard of care. Now, what we see here is the data landscape these platforms integrate, not just a single clock, but a composite biological portrait. The keyword is multimodal. The more biological dimensions measured, the more precise and actionable these inputs. Now, what can AI tell us that we cannot see? Here are some 4 clinically important domains as examples. Surgical risk. We know that the current standard is based on the American Society for Anesthesiologists physical status classification, clinical frailty scale, or frailty phenotype. When it is AI enhanced, multimodal biological age, in addition to organ-specific clocks, identify that a 72-year-old with biological age of 84 carries a perioperative risk of an 84-year-old, not a 72-year-old. This changes the informed consent conversation. As example, hepatic biological age predicts drug metabolism, which affects anesthetic dosing. Polypharmacy is another example. The standard of care, we use Beers criteria, stop and start tools, which are largely rule-based. When it is AI enhanced, metabolomic age profiles reflect real-time hepatic and renal function far more precisely than creatinine-based estimates. So deprescribing in practice can be guided by metabolomic age is personalized, not just population averaged. Dementia risk is another example. The standard of care currently that we currently utilize mini-mental status examination, Montreal cognitive assessment, and it all detects decline that has already occurred. But when it's AI enhanced, we use plasma p-tau protein 217, which is clinically now available. It predicts the Alzheimer pathology 10 to 15 years before symptoms onset. And when we add to that the brain clock, the cerebral cortex aging from the structural MRI, in addition to retinal AI, it all provide a multi-signal triangulation. This combination allows a more than 10-year trajectory model, enabling preventive conversations while modifications is still possible. Finally, we can discuss the rehabilitation goals as another example. The current standard of care, we use Barthel Index, functional independence measure, gait speed. It gives us a snapshot of functional status, that's all. But when it's AI enhanced, muscle proteomics, proteins regulating sarcomere maintenance, in addition to biological age trajectory, defines the patient's realistic functional ceiling. It prevents us from both under ambition when we prematurely limit the patient's goals, or over ambition when we use or target unsafe goals. So let us think, in which of these 4 domains could we most readily integrate a biological age lens in our practice this year? The science is clear. The tools are arriving. The remaining question is, what does this mean for healthcare systems? And specifically for Saudi Arabia's transformation agenda. This is where the science scenario meets the strategy. Now, we all are familiar with the Vision 2030 and health sector transformation goals and value-based care trajectory. It raises the healthy life expectancy and biological age integration into the national health strategy KPIs operationalizes this target. It gives us a measurable mechanism, not just a number. So let's take some examples. So when we reduce preventable disease, inflammaging biomarkers like CRP and interleukin-6 predict frailty onset 5 to 8 years before clinical presentation. So intervening in that window with exercise, nutrition, targeted pharmacology is the preventive dividend. Another example is knowledge-based economy. Saudi genetics and epigenetic data is globally underrepresented in longevity research. A national longevity biobank anchored at Kmark would produce research that is both scientifically novel and nationally owned. Another angle is the value-based care. Everyone is talking about that these days. Biological age indexed care models or bundles, grouping interventions by biological reserve rather than diagnostic category, is a natural evolution of value-based care pilots already running in Riyadh Health Cluster in Ta'akkad campaign. Here I want to be precise with you, as your colleague, not as an advocate for a trend. Not all of this science is ready for clinic, and it is our obligation to know the difference. Let me give you an honest appraisal of the evidence.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan.
Yeah.
It's fine. This is how you want to conclude?
I have 2 more slides, if you allow me.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is solid here that is evidence-based is the epigenetic clocks that I mentioned, Grimes and Dunedin pace, gait speed and grip strength, inflammaging, retinal eye age gap. And on the other hand, what is emerging, and we need to watch this space, a multimodal AI platform, senolytics, NAD plus precursor supplementation, and organ-specific aging clocks. This is, I think, the most important slide before I conclude. Here is a call to action. Ages. A, assess biologically. Minimum standard biological assessment that we all are familiar with and can do in our clinic. Gait speed, grip strength, CRP, and albumin. These are low cost and widely available. G, go beyond chronology. Shift your communication and language. Instead of he's 75, we can talk about his biological reserve suggests a functional capacity of a 65-year-old. E, engage with innovation. Pilot validated digital biomarker tools within your department, like retinal AI with ophthalmology. And finally, shape the system. Advocate for biological age metrics in JCI and Sibahi, and push for inclusion in health clusters, KPI, and health systems towards the 2030 healthy life expectancy target. And final, in closing, the ancient paradox asks, if every plank of a ship is gradually replaced, is it still the same ship? Our cells ask the same question. We replace most of our cellular components each decade, yet we accumulate damage in our epigenome, our mitochondria, and our senescent cells. That replacement cannot do. That damage is what we call aging. But here is what the science of 2023 is telling us. That damage may not be permanent. The information may not be lost. It may simply be misread. And if aging is a problem of misread information, then the future of aging is not decline. It is design. And we are the first generation of clinicians who may be able to say that to our patient and mean it. Thank you.
So much, Dr. Asim. Wonderful talk. And it's very interesting to see how we're going to redefine age in the upcoming couple of years.
Inshallah.
Handing it over to my colleague, Dr. Sulaiman. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Turki and the rest of the team. Now I would like to present Dr. Khalid Al-Harkan. Dr. Khalid Al-Harkan, he is the chairman for Saudi Geriatric Society, has an American board and certified family physician with the Geriatric Fellowship, Associate Professor, College of Medicine, Imam Abdurrahman bin Faisal University, Dean College of Medicine, Dammam, KSA, to speak about precision medicine and digital tool for healthy aging. Please welcome Dr. Khalid Al-Harkan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Is my presentation clear on the screen? Dr.
Yes,
Sulaiman?
Yes,
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'll be talking about digital health and how precision medicine can change our practice as clinicians. And I will start with a few objectives. I will be talking about exactly why precision and digital health for older adult, and we'll show a clinical use for cases relevant to geriatricians, address barriers, ethics, and equity, and outline practical steps for implementation and upskilling. So why do I talk about precision medicine for a geriatrician? Geriatrician already emphasize on individualized decision-making using comprehensive geriatric assessment. We focus on multidimensional focus, medical, psychological, functional, as well as social. Also, we can extend this concept by integrating genetic profiling, pharmacogenomics, and other omics data, social and behavioral factors. So imagine how it will be helpful to integrate all factors into and adding into it genetic profiling and pharmacogenomics. And I will go into practical examples and case scenarios in a minute. So precision medicine enhancing geriatric care because it improves treatment efficacy, safety, especially in neurodegenerative disorders, psychiatric disorders, like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, depression, and anxiety. Genetic markers like ApoE4 significantly influence the progression of Alzheimer's disease. So if you have a patient who is testing positive for certain genes, it will affect the management of his Alzheimer's disease. How can we prevent early? How can we start early? How can we change behaviors? Precision medicine also enhances the geriatric care through clinical decision support system. And there are many applications in the clinical field already, and I'll be touching on that on the CDSS. While adoption currently is limited, but this tool promises accelerate precision medicine integration into geriatric care by helping mitigate common medication-related problems. And I will give an example. So a case scenario, We have an older adult with mild cognitive impairment and depression undergoing a pharmacogenomic testing and revealed that he is CYP2D6 poor metabolizer status. It's an enzyme in the liver. This information guides the clinician to avoid certain antidepressants metabolized by this enzyme. Instead, selecting agent less likely to cause the side effect or treatment failure. Let's dig deep. So the CYP2D6 poor metabolizer reduces the ability to metabolize certain SSRIs. For example, fluoxetine, like Prozac or paroxetine. The clinician should avoid those medications in a depressed patient or an anxiety patient because it increases the risk of sedation, risk of toxicity, and instead prescribe alternatives that uses other liver enzymes like CYP2C19. It's like sertraline and other SSRIs. So you can imagine how it will be helpful, make precision medicine more clear for the geriatricians. I will talk about digital health. Digital health applications support independence and function. Now it's a common era of wearables and sensors. So I think the decade or the time of having a vital signs for a 30 seconds and judge a patient for a 30-second vital sign set in the clinic or pre-clinic visit, I think it will fade in the near future. I think focusing more on wearables, sensors that track activity, smartwatches monitor gait, balance, heart rate, and sleep pattern. In a frail older adult, risk of falls could be detected early. Occupational hazard could be detected earlier through those wearables and sensors. Home sensors also can detect changes in daily activities like room movement, patterns, sleep disruptions, and serving to comprehensively monitor function and safety remotely. There are also another digital health concepts called ecological momentary assessment, EMA. EMA basically using smartphones or devices to collect real-time data and monitor symptoms and fluctuations in the naturalistic setting. This technique reduces recall bias and captures dynamic nature of cognitive decline and psychiatric symptoms through EMA, allowing clinicians to personalize care plans responsively. Also, there are remote monitoring and telehealth, which combine with AI-driven analytics and remote monitoring platform enable early detection of health deterioration, supporting proactive outreach by healthcare teams. So how can we connect precision medicine and digital health to the geriatric outcomes? Let me give you an example. Frailty. Precision medicine assists in identifying certain genetics that increase the risk of frailty or make people more prone to frailty earlier in their life, and molecular contribution to frailty. While wearables could detect and track mobility, physical activity, gait speed, and key frailty indicators. Continuous data allowing personalized care, for example, tailored exercise, strength management, tailored nutrition plans, and optimizing resilience and functional reserve. Also, another example is multimorbidity. Sometimes AI algorithm can integrate multimodal genomics and clinical and behavioral and environmental factors to stratify the risk and guide complex care decisions for patients with multiple chronic conditions. So digital tools help facilitate the real-time symptom monitoring. For example, a multimorbidity AI prediction model that has been developed by me and my team for example, dementia. We have detected certain factors are common in our population, like sleep disorders and its effect on dementia. So in Saudi population, we know older adults tend to sleep later in their night, sometimes in the morning, and we had to predict that if they have a sleep disturbance or not sleeping well, it could increase their risk of having dementia earlier in their life. So that's an AI prediction model. Wearable sensor monitoring for risk. For example, smartwatch or sensor patch that continuously track the gait stability and the balance. Data transmitted to a remote monitoring system. AI algorithm analyze the patterns and indicative of the fall risk. Also, such as decreased gait speed or variability. Early detection trigger the referral for physical therapy and focused balance on strength training and prompt to home safety modifications earlier, like removing trip hazards and installing grab bars. Outcomes improved, of course, via precision care, and we have talked about examples. Let's talk about the digital bridge, or what we call CDSS. It's basically a clinical decision support system as an accelerator in this field. Sheer volume of genomic data is impossible for clinicians to synthesize manually during brief consultations. So clinical decision support system is basically an integrated system through the EHR that integrates certain genomic data with our comprehensive geriatric assessment that could help suggest solutions using AI with integrating all of the data related to the specific patient. So real-time integration, this system can help patients genetic profiling against their current medication, for example, polypharmacy, and provide instant alert regarding potential gene-drug interactions. And I'll talk about examples in the market already. Evidence-based guidance by pulling from the latest research papers that have been published recently, for example, in 2025 or 2024. So the CDSS ensure that geriatrician decisions supported by evidence. That is one example. The first example I will be talking about in the market is Cogni-CA. It's by Cognitivity Neuroscience. This is an already fully approved, FDA approved. It's basically FDA cleared class 2 medical device. This platform is fully cleared by FDA. It's also used now in the NHS system in UK. Basically, the idea of this is it's an automated speech and language analysis platform. So this is an analysis platform. Technology analyze natural language processing, the NLP, and machine learning algorithm to analyze the brief voice recording of the patient of describing an image or participating in a structured speech task. So, for example, instead of using Mocha and looking into the patient, you will be showing a picture and asking the patient to describe this picture. And so the software analyzes hundreds of micro features of speech. So it's impossible sometimes or really difficult for human ear to detect. This includes duration, frequency of word finding pauses like and ah, focal acoustic variances, and synaptic complexity and conversational fluency. What's the clinical impact of this? So recent clinical validation studies showed that these passive acoustic biomarkers correlate highly with traditional executive function and memory metrics. It allows rapid, low burden, highly achievable longitudinal cognitive tracking, which may lead to which can be deployed in the either primary care setting or remotely via telehealth. So it's called Cogni-CA by Cognitivity Neuroscience. So that's the first example where we can use it in dementia patient, and how can we do a rapid 5-minute cognitive assessment instead of 30 or 45 minutes, and it could be self-administered. So that's the first example. The second example I will be talking about is the polypharmacy, rule-based and machine learning with the CDSS. So I'll give you an example about geriatrician who helped in this. So we have the clinical expertise behind MedSafer. So we have the geriatrician, Dr. Hong. He is from University of Ottawa. He led the development of clinical logic and geriatric informatics. And that's why we have now a new concept called geriatric informatics, not just geriatric cardiology or orthogeriatrics. It's now there are new concepts called geriatric informatics. Dr. Hong, he's a pioneer in geriatric informatics. He, with an epidemiologist and internist, Dr. Emily MacDonald and Todd Lee from McGill, they designed a program called MedSafer. And this program was invented, and they had a patent on this program. It's called MedSafer Study. It's basically an electronic decision support system for deprescribing in hospitalized older adult. And they did the randomized control trial on this. So basically, MedSafer, it's an advanced electronic EHR system. It's basically could be integrated to could hook into any EMR system. The technology digital tool integrate directly into the patient information and complete medication with clinical diagnoses and also look into frailty scores, renal function. It applies internalized rule-based framework such as peer criteria, stop and start criteria, combined with predictive analytics to identify the potentially inappropriate medication. So instead of having an alarm and falsely alarm in the EHR or EMR, they don't do that. They don't show notifications of certain things. They rather do deprescribing opportunity report at the end of each visit. So they will generate, this system will generate a deprescription opportunity report. So instead of having a geriatrician in each clinic having to review all medications, could have a deprescription opportunity report that provide clinicians with target rationales for taper and discontinuation, specifically tailored in their patient estimated expectancy and frailty status. So what did they find actually in this study? They find that they had decreased the number of or increased the number of deprescription in the clinical setting by the double amount of the deprescription compared with the standard of care deprescription strategies. So it doubled the amount of medication that they had to deprescribe based on the suggestions of MedSafer. The last example I will be talking about is Sleep Bio RX. This is a prescription-only software as a medical device. So a physician now currently can instead of prescribing a pill for insomnia, they now prescribe a software. And this is a new concept for physician, and I think this is the beauty of digital health. So this is a prescription-only software as a medical device. It's delivered a 90 days cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia patient. And we know in older adult, the first line of treatment for insomnia is cognitive behavioral therapy. And we know that we are limited with a lot of resources to be used in insomnia. A lot of medications like hypnotics have a lot of side effect, but CBT-I for insomnia, it's a guided recommended therapy, first line therapy. This is already FDA approved in 2024, had 18 randomized control trial conducted on the Sleep IO RX. The first software approved for insomnia was in 2020 called Somrest.
Dr. Khalid, 2 minutes.
Yeah, but the second one is the Sleep IO RX. The Sleep IO RX, it's already FDA approved, already used in NHS and FDA approved in 2024, and it was backed by 18 randomized control trial. It increases 55% the risk of insomnia, decreases the latency time before sleep, and it's backed by randomized control trials. So what are the barriers? I'll talk briefly in the last 2 minutes about the barriers of applying those concepts. So older adults commonly face significant challenges related to digital literacy. Digital literacy is a huge problem in our community especially. Physical and cognitive impairment sometimes also vision problems could be a barrier on applying those digital health tools. Also, there are clinician level barriers. Healthcare providers often face gaps in their knowledge and their training regarding precision and digital health tools applicable to geriatrics. Clinical training and endorsement in co-designing certain training programs is an important. System level barriers. Sometimes we have problem integrate complex patient data, including genetic, clinical, sensors, and behaviorals into cohesive EHR systems that we have. Also, there are researcher level barriers. Older adults remain underrepresented in clinical trials and age-appropriate algorithm and interventions. So data bias in AI models, if they exclude geriatric population, could be there. So equitable advancement to precision gero medicine without intentional inclusion and precision health risk exacerbating health disparities rather than reducing them. So what do we have? And I think I suggest educational needs for curriculum and integration of certain curriculums for longevity and precision medicine into our training program, where we integrate the certain modalities that integrate AI, digital health, and precision medicine into our practice. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid, for the excellent presentation. I will take the opportunity now and tell the audience that please feel free to ask any question in the chat, because after this session, we'll take all the questions. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Mohammed Hashim. He's a consultant in internal medicine and geriatric medicine, care of medicine and geriatric clinical lead of Siha, Saudi Arabia. He will talk about the experience of Siha Virtual Hospital Geriatric Care and the challenging and the opportunities. Please, without further ado, welcome Dr. Mohammed Hashim.
Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Sabah al-khair and good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clear, Dr. Mohammed.
And can you see my slides? They're okay?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, just 1 second, please. Okay, is the video clear now?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, shukran. طيب, Bismillah, Sabah al-khair. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. And it will be tough to supersede the previous speakers. MashaAllah, I learned a lot in the past 1 hour. Today, I'll be talking to you about Siha Virtual Hospital and Geriatric Care, the challenges and opportunities we've had via telemedicine. This is not something quite new or novel. However, it's something that's absolutely essential in my biased opinion. So I'll be talking to you about how to assess patients virtually via telemedicine, in particular for geriatric patients. This is a growing trend and need, and it's essential for our patient care overall. I'll identify accomplishments to date for this service. I'll mention to you particular clinical pearls and tools that can help you in assessing patients virtually, with future prospects and goals as well. You all know in the kingdom, our population is aging. We used to be a young population of the majority below age 30. Not anymore. Now the pyramid is shifting and going up, as you can see in this health authority statistics. So our population pyramid is flipping, where we're going to have more older adults in the future, similar to Japan and Canada. And it's important to adhere to this now and create systems to reduce this burden in society, not just healthcare-wise, but also financial-wise. This growth in Saudi is actually not as linear as we think. It's a little bit exponential. So the growth in older population in the kingdom is growing a lot. And it's thanks to many things. Fadl Allah, awalan, and then secondly, thanks to the many efforts from the government and healthcare sectors in improving overall access to healthcare and preventative medicine. So this service of Siha Virtual Hospital Tib Kibar al-Sin or Geriatric Medicine, we launched in about March of 2022 with a lot of promise. So this is a photo, an image of the Siha Virtual Hospital in the digital city, focused here, based in Riyadh. This is the headquarters for it, one of these buildings in the MOH, Ministry of Health. You can see these are the pods that we complete our telemedicine appointments with privacy. Again, we have many specialties, over 50 specialties, and the key focus is to provide healthcare services via telemedicine, in particular to areas of the kingdom that have low access to healthcare, especially in rare fields like geriatric medicine, for example. So this is another example of what it would look like with the health informatics team and physicians. 937, this is where they're based at as well. If you're aware of the local physician services, to call 937 by the MOH. You all know what geriatric medicine does, I would assume. So a lot of attention to geriatric syndromes, a lot of attention to frailty, a lot of attention to reducing emergency visits. So the goal of the geriatric medicine telemedicine service is to ensure all adults, older adults and their families get access to high quality comprehensive assessments virtually, quickly, efficiently, while they're relaxed at home. Now, I put this image here so you can recognize how there is a huge demand for this, how we want to reach people. Think of the older adult who is bedbound, living in remote areas, who can't get out of bed, or the closest hospital is 4 hours away. COVID came and put the gas on this, but this is something that's absolutely essential down the line to serve these, impoverished communities, older adults living in remote areas as quickly and efficiently as possible. Now, again, I would assume you all know what a comprehensive geriatric assessment is, التقييم الشامل لكبار السن, where you look at a patient's overall functional geriatric syndromes, medications, cognition, social, and family history altogether. Now, there's a lot of evidence actually on telemedicine and geriatrics overall. So if you look to the left side of the slide, you can see how in Mayo Clinic, US Department of Veterans, Veterans Health Administration, Johns Hopkins, international systematic reviews all point towards telemedicine geriatrics in particular and what it provides in an evidence-based fashion. So they reduce resource use with safe home management. They improve access to healthcare with high patient caregiver satisfaction. You have fewer emergency visits and admissions. This is key and essential to all stakeholders and leadership who run hospitals and CEOs. You have lower healthcare costs, which is brilliant nationwide. And I mentioned how you have lower admission rates as well. Now, that's from a public health national level, but when you perform CGAs, you keep patients alive and at home for at least up to 1 year, which is great for patients and families. You reduce frailty progression, you improve their function, and really you reduce readmissions and ER visits. And I want to emphasize this point and goal because it's a win for all parties, for patients, families, physicians, healthcare, and the nation. Now, doing telemedicine geriatrics does have its perks. It does have some limitations. I'll mention that at the end, but a few positives are, first of all, it's a rare specialty in the kingdom. So you want to have a telemedicine approach to reach these different areas, like I said. You can educate families and other professionals in particular about geriatric medicine. You'd be surprised as to how many still don't know what we do and how we do it and why we do it. You can provide care to, as I said, those that are very, heavily bedbound and have mobility issues. It's very difficult to get a bedbound patient with a low GCS in an ambulance to the clinic to see you. So telemedicine can help resolve this. And access to care can help improve. No-shows actually go down with telemedicine, which is great. And actually, in your assessment, you can do functional history even more accurately by seeing their medications, their home environment, their stairs that they use. That reality and actuality of how they're living in their function is actually helpful in geriatric medicine. Now, to do a CGA, there's many, many ways to do it. This is a summary form of what we use in the Sahih Virtual Hospital telemedicine service. I've accumulated from multiple sources on CGAs. Again, nothing new here, but just to showcase a standardized form that we use altogether. You're free to use this as well if you wish, to kind of encapsulate a full picture of the patient. This is an example of an assessment and plan of one of our patients. Again, very extensive. So one new patient can take up to 45 minutes or 1 hour virtually to perform all those components that I showed you earlier. And the benefit of this is what I told you before. So it takes time, but there's certainly very, very high benefit in this. Another example of a patient, again, very extensive, very holistic. This is gold typically to the referral source that sends you the patient, so you can send them back with this extensive detailed report. And you would try to avoid basically siloed medicine of them seeing individual professionals or healthcare providers in separate sectors, because geriatrics, as you know, is not organ specific or disease specific. It's very holistic overall, keeping in mind, as the speaker said before me, the patient's independence, their values, and their function with good quality of life, not just quantity of life. Again, another example here of a patient that we've seen. This is a real note of the assessment and plan that we provide to the referral source and the families. So the referral models that we have is from different sectors in the kingdom. We see patients from home care services, from long-term care, from primary care, charitable organizations like the Saudi Alzheimer's Society, internally from the other 50 specialties we have in Sahih Virtual Hospital, 937 if you call the unified free number for the Ministry of Health to book an appointment. We also see shared clinics, and hopefully soon we'll have a hotline. This is an example of the workflow that we have. So when we get the referrals, we get them through these different sectors. The nurse that I have, coordinator Sami, then reviews them, provides a pre-assessment with the families, prepares the medications. We have the virtual appointment with the family and patient. We finish the plan. We give them the medical report. We give them a follow-up message. We give them resources to support them. We give them a survey to complete about the service, and then we book them for a follow-up appointment. This is an infographic just showcasing what I just said to you about what the service is, what it entails, who we see, why we see, and how you can refer to our service. Now, Anat and Raqim are the two mediums, formal mediums we use via apps. The stakeholder or patients then log in through the Sahhati app, which is the formal app used by the Ministry of Health. You can log in, put in your information and ID, and then book an appointment there. This is an example, if you will, of a patient and their son attending the virtual appointment with us. This patient had mixed dementia. We helped them a lot in regards to their behaviors. They were actually abused by a private entity without giving names in regards to the medications they were taking. We stopped all of them and provided them with correct medications to help support their cognition. Another example of a very frail elderly woman who has multiple wounds, who had complex behaviors, paranoid delusions, and the daughter was very, very burnt out. Wasn't able to go to work even because of this significant burden that she had. And doing a comprehensive assessment, even virtually, really helped rectify a lot of these. We were even able to remove the NG tube, help with the wound healing. The daughter went back to work after a comprehensive assessment because the patient now had to reduce pain and reduce behaviors. So it's a win for all. An example of polypharmacy, as what the previous speakers were talking about. This is a real patient, by the way, and it's a joy really when you remove medications and you see patients improve. A very underestimated geriatric syndrome. Wasfati, speaking of medications, is the formal entity or program and service that the Ministry of Health has entailed, which is, I think, incredible, with no bias from my side, that we can prescribe medications through. Patients and families get a text message. They can go pick up their medications from a pharmacy like Dawa and even have it delivered to their homes free of charge. Now, we've had many success stories in our service going on now for almost 4 years. I just want to share, a few of them where some patients were going in and out of emergency departments 6 times in 2 months. Some patients had really bad behaviors where the families quit their jobs to look after them. Some patients had safety risks where they were driving inappropriately or taking medications more than they should, or the reverse, or had financial concerns and burdens. And so doing this comprehensive assessment along with referral to Allied Health and the virtual hospital really helped rectify a lot of these. And we're very proud of this. Now, we do have a very brief survey we've committed and done with our respondents. Out of the thousands of patients that we've seen is around 252. And we've asked them 2 questions, essentially. Have you found that the plan and management provided to you was practical and useful? I'm happy to say that 85% agree completely and 11% agree. The second question we asked was, would you recommend this service to other elderly patients having complex comorbidities such as yourself? 82% reported they agree completely, 15% reported that they agree. So I'm very proud of this as well. Now, we have testimonials, and hopefully soon we will have a study published in regards to this. So a lot of novel things here. We want to publish in regards to telemedicine outcomes in doing a CGA in the Saudi population via telemedicine. So lots of novel things there. Telemedicine in Saudi population, geriatrics. So, and hopefully soon, it's pending. Now, our team is actually small, but very effective. We have 3 geriatric medicine consultants, including myself, 1 nurse coordinator, 1 social worker. We do have a pharmacist for the hospital itself as well. And 65% of our patients are based outside of Riyadh. Again, the goal is to reach those that have, impoverished areas, difficult access to care. And we do have KPIs we measure as well. I don't want to go into that for the sake of time. Now, a clinical pearl for you in your practice of geriatricians via telemedicine is, can you do cognitive assessments virtually? The answer is yes, and it's been studied. The main 3 validated tools are as follows: the MMSE-T, T for telephone, the MoCA Blind, and the TICS. My recommendation for you is you don't have to stick to one in particular. I think the TICS is very long. I don't recommend it myself, personally speaking. The MoCA Blind and MMSE-T are great. Taking components of this is actually more important. The end score is not as important as your clinical judgment, of course, and their functional decline. You can even do clock drawings virtually, where you open the camera and have the patients draw on a paper with the family present. Of course, you tell them not to help them or help them cheat. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. But you can certainly do it, and these have been validated as well. Now, a physical examination virtually sounds insane, but it's doable as well. Now, the things that you could do is you can observe their skin appearance, right? And their cognition and their alertness and their facial expression. You can also do the 3-word recall and the clock drawing, like I said. You can also examine their function, even have them walk on camera to see for sit and stand and gait speed. You can even ask the caregiver to show you their pressure injuries and wounds. And you can review their home environment, like I said. So lots of benefits that you can do with virtual physical examination. Now, beyond medically, what we do is we also provide them with medical reports. We deprescribe medications. We refer to a social worker. We also connect them with charitable organizations. So lots of families that we see have difficult access to equipment, to hospital beds, to air mattresses, to splints, right? And so lots of organizations for المملكة يعطيهم العافية provide excellent support for this. Their medical reports, again, the families really appreciate as well, because it's very comprehensive, and in any entity they interact with afterwards, they provide them this extensive 2-page report that can help speed things along for the clinician, either in emergency or clinic or so on. And we do a lot of health education during our comprehensive assessment. Now, some challenges, I'm sure you're aware, is technical sound, voice, and IT issues that can be a burden. However, this has improved significantly with Sahih Virtual Hospital, and we have excellent IT support as well. We always have a plan B in communicating with families if this fails via phone call. Patient collateral presence can be an issue. Sometimes we have patients and families living in different homes and it'd be difficult to access them. Hearing and vision issues, of course, by the patient themselves. Physical exam limitations we just talked about. And medication literacy. When them, mentioning a specific medication can be very difficult then to ascertain what they're talking about without physically touching them. A recommendation for me is to have them send a photo of all their medications and then point to that virtually to make things easier for you. Now, for future visions in the kingdom that I see for virtual care is to have a national virtual dementia clinic specifically. I think this is in the works as well. And to have a virtual falls and frailty clinic. And you've seen from the previous speakers and their innovation that they're doing, especially with AI and Dr. Al-Harkan, what he mentioned, this is coming. We just want to see how far we can push it and actually utilize it in our daily practice. Geriatric psychiatry is a very underutilized subspecialty and in huge need. And having a teleclinic in this form would really, really help. We do have geriatric telemedicine. We have psychiatric telemedicine, but we do want a subspecialty in this field as well. Telepalliative care, a more rare especially than geriatrics in the kingdom is palliative care. So this is certainly something that we need. We need goals of care clinics to discuss and help support patients across the kingdom. And AI-supported medication review that Dr. Al-Harkan talked about previously. Now, if you want to refer to our service, it's very easy. We've made it easier for you to do so via a QR code. This referral form you can scan with your phone. You can take a screenshot if you want. You can also email our coordinator at this email you have here at the Ministry of Health. And if you pertain to a Ministry of Health entity, you can then refer through the eHality system on referral.mo.gov.sa. But feel free to refer patients who you believe need geriatric care and geriatric comprehensive assessment. We're happy to support them overall. I do want to thank the Ministry of Health, the SVH leadership on all their efforts. They've done an incredible job in creating an environment that caters to geriatric patients in the service. We've been going 4 years and strong, and inshallah will continue. We welcome your feedback as well. Before I end things, on a side note, I do have a website I have designed. I don't have any conflict of interest to share. ما في تضارب في المصالح لمشاركة الشيء. It's called الأجندة الأبدية or Ageless Agenda. It's a website designed for public health education in geriatric medicine fields, agelessagenda.com or .org, as you can see. And it pertains to 23 geriatric medicine topics. Again, it's free. There's no conflict of interest. We don't take any donations or money in Arabic and English for anyone to use to hopefully support in their knowledge in geriatric medicine. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed, for an excellent speech. With this, we are concluding our first session. We're moving to the questions. I don't think so we have a lot of questions in the chat. Actually, we don't have questions in the chat. Dr. Talab and I will take this briefly to speak about a little bit of question. But anyways, anyone has any question? You can put it in the chat. Dr. Do you have anything to mention?
Thank you so much, Dr. Suleiman. It was a very amazing session, very futuristic, very optimistic for the future of geriatric medicine in the kingdom. And so I'm very hopeful. Fantastic. If there's no questions, if you don't mind me asking Dr. Mohammed, for the accessibility and recruitment of patients to geriatric patients in virtual Saha hospital, was it more of a proactive that you were reaching out to the patients and offering your services, or it's just a matter of following up on the previous patients who have been admitted or hospitalized and then offering them the services?
It's an excellent question, Dr. Turki. Thank you for that. Initially, when the service started in its infancy 4 years ago, that was the case. We were hunting down patients. We have a geriatric service. Again, geriatrics is still relatively new in the kingdom, and even healthcare providers know exactly what we do, why we do it, and who to send. That was the case initially. But after much lobbying, talking, making calls, and meeting these different sectors of primary care, 937, specific hospitals we make affiliations with, التجمعات الصحية, جمعيات خيرية, charitable organizations. Now they refer to us automatically, and we have a long wait list of now 3 months. So we're expanding and growing with huge demand. So we don't need to hunt down patients anymore. We have a good influx of patients coming in from all these sectors. Home care is also a very big one.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Inshallah.
Okay, I'll take the opportunity and
We have 2 questions. We will start with Abdelaziz Ziena. Abdelaziz?
Yeah.
He has left. Gada Al-Najah, please speak.
Sorry, I'll continue asking you, Dr. Khalid. With the rapid expansion of digital health tools, how do you see integrate into a routine in the next life?
So Suleiman, I think...
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, تفضل دكتورة.
So I have a question regarding AI and fall detection. How much can we trust it? Like we have a lot of devices like REM pulse, where they do ECG on the patient, and we can like telemonitor the patient. As a physician, I couldn't find any clinical trials to trust or make decision based on that. So are we using that, or what is the Hello?
ايوه دكتورة سمعناكي. So your question, just to rephrase, it's what's the evidence, clinical practice applicability of telehealth, the geriatric
Yes,
application?
there's plenty of devices, and one actually I'm trying to work with is like REM pulse, where it's ECG, fall risk, and other oxygen monitoring, heart rate, and so on. But I'm not quite sure if it's the same as the regular ECG, let's say. That is my question. If any one of the speaker have any experience with that.
Okay. Anyone? The speakers have any answer to Dr.
أهلا وسهلا دكتور تركي وشكرا على السؤال. I think it's a little bit related to my topic. The examples that I have showed is basically evidence-based examples. Of course, there are many digital health tools or AI tools that not supported by evidence or by randomized control trials. So always for an ECG or anything, we just look for evidence, read in the literature, go for the trusted parties. Of course, FDA approved products will be even better. So my answer is generalized. We just look for evidence, but I think the quality of AI products is based on the quality of the data that you are feeding the AI model. So developing a prediction model of certain things, if you are not feeding with the right data, you will get wrong answers. That's why we have to do a randomized control trials on those either digital health tools or AI tools and make sure it's really helpful. Then use it in the clinical practice because there are a lot of ethical concerns, and that's in my talk. I've talked about in the end of the talk is about the barriers, researcher barriers, clinician barriers, system barrier, and patient barrier. So yeah, there are so many barriers for those tools, but I think it's very promising in general, and it requires a lot of evidence-based practices and needs.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid.
Okay. And I think we have another question also in the chat from Dr. Afaf. So she's inquiring about the model of collaboration between home healthcare and virtual clinic services. Are both services provided concurrently to the same patient? I think probably this question is directed to Dr. Mohammed.
نعم السلام عليكم. طيب, good question. It's two different entities, two different administrations. The home healthcare service and the Sahib Virtual Hospital are under the umbrella of Ministry of Health, yes, but they're two different admins. So it's not automatic where every home care geriatric patients who gets home care services from that admin is then referred to us, but they can refer to us via those entities. And we work closely, we're in the same building as well, but it's interchangeable. Some patients I think require home care, and then we communicate to that administration to provide home care services, and vice versa. Some home care patients then who are very complex require a geriatrician to support, and then they refer to us for us to see.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed.
We have a question from Dr. Najumunisa Basha. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My question is to Dr. Mohammed. First of all, I would like to congratulate. It is an amazing conference. Geriatric medicine is not so much highlighted, although our communities have a big amount of patients and our provision of service and coverage is less. Anyway, coming back, I'm a family medicine consultant and a metabolic physician, and I was privileged to work in National Guard in Riyadh. So I have some idea about Saudi healthcare for a few months and a year. So I would just wanted to check, like when you were talking about your geriatric care on a digital basis, like a virtual, which is an amazing thing. And we know that we are moving a lot on many faculties. I just checking, what do you think is a primary healthcare role in that? Because your both consultants are trained internal medicine, geriatric consultants, amazing. Do you think primary care physician could be a great tool to add? Because, they are the first of contact for medication, for, anything. So what do you think involving primary healthcare with you?
Thank you, Dr. Naja, for that question. I'm glad you had some experience here as well. Primary health care and family medicine physicians, we love and appreciate, and we need. You are the forefront of physicians who address the huge demand of geriatric patients overall. So we cannot do it alone. We need each other. we have the luxury of seeing patients for an hour and 45 minutes. You do something that's more difficult where you see patients in 10 to 15 minutes. So I don't expect you, I'd be very impressed if you could do a CJ in that time frame. However, for your role, I think that could really support, and all family physicians in the kingdom and abroad can at least do brief screening tools. So if you think about the PHQ-2 for mental health, if you think about the 2 question screenings for falls, if you think about doing a mini cog for the cognition, if you think about asking the family about caregiver burden, that I think can help you at least do some like
Sorry,
a mini.
I can't hear you. Maybe it's my internet.
Can you hear me okay, everyone? Can you hear me?
I can hear you quite fine, Dr. Mohammed. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Najah, you can hear me? Okay. So the point is doing a mini CGA with these mini screening tools, I think, is what I recommend. And of course, you're always welcome to refer to your friendly geriatrician to support.
Thank you so much. And the last question. Thank you, sir. Is also, I think, for Dr. Hisham. What's the current capacity of Saha versus hospital and the waiting time for initial appointment?
The waiting time currently is around 2 months or so. However, we do have we do triage our patients, so depending on their frailty and their goals of care and all that. So please refer. Don't be discouraged if the waiting time is long. We can definitely shift patients around depending on their clinical needs.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Wonderful. So I think now it's the time to switch to our second session, which is preventive care and community health for older adults. And allow me to introduce my Dr. Sulaiman. Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you, Doctor. You can go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just gonna gladly introduce our first moderator, Dr. Samah Hajjar. She is the Assistant Professor of Internal Medicine at Geriatric and a consultant in Internal Medicine and Geriatric at Taiba University in Medina al-Munawwara.
And please allow me to introduce. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياك الله دكتور سماح.
الله يسلمكم دكتور.
And please let me introduce Dr. Tarat al-Masani. He is a family medicine consultant and geriatric medicine consultant, and also assistant professor of family medicine and geriatric medicine in عيادة جدة, Saudi Arabia. Please, without further ado, welcome Dr. Tarat and Dr. Samah. Floor is yours.
حياكم الله. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Tarat, salam alaikum. How are you this morning?
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, everyone. And just a quick correction. I moved out from my clinic and now I work at the Nahdi Care as a chief medical officer. Yeah, so probably Dr. Samah. We have, I think, Dr. Ashraf Amir with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Yes, we can hear you, doctor. So let me introduce you to our audience. So we have Dr. Ashraf Amir with us this morning. And the topic we have is the National Adult Immunization Program and the coverage gaps that we have. Dr. Ashraf Amir is a consultant of family medicine and the chief medical officer of an IMC International Medical Center group. He is, which is based in Jeddah and other cities. He's an honorary assistant professor of medicine at Qura University. And he is the vice president of the Saudi Society of Family and Community Medicine in Saudi Arabia. We welcome you, Dr. Ashraf, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tarat. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleague, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, it's an honor for me to be with you in this wonderful and prestigious conference. And my topic is will be about the National Immunization Program and the coverage gap. But before I start, let me set up the stage and pave the way by saying that there is some inventions or discovery that change the landscape of the humankind and preserve the life of humankind throughout the ancient days, which is one is antibiotic, the other one is insulin, and the third one is the vaccine that we are talking about today. And definitely all the compelling evidence show that adult vaccination can protect as much as 14 deadly diseases. So there is a vaccine preventable disease, which is as important as the children's immunizations. And this is, in fact, one of the problems that encountered, that people think about the vaccines are only for kids. But now the time has been changed, to understand that it is as important for adults as well. And there is also compelling evidence that adult vaccinations had made a dramatic change in curbing the epidemics of certain disease. One of it, invasive pneumococcal disease, as the PCV and the pneumococcal vaccination has been introduced. And it's very important also to know who is the most effective person that can promote vaccinations and recommend vaccinations. It's not the celebrity much, but it's all of us as a physicians, the personal physician, the family physicians, the physician who can spend a little bit of time with patients and to convince the patients, and in combinations with the family member, the most responsible member in the family, that he has more medical knowledge. So both of these individuals, the physicians and the family member, they are the trustworthy person that can promote vaccines. So this took us all the way to understand exactly that in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because of our Vision 2030, which has been focusing on preventive healthcare. So now we are moving with our transformation from intervention to prevention, from disease to health, from illness to wellness. And this is the name of what we are, the name of the current status that we are going through. And that's why there is a lot of efforts and collaborations and coordination between different societies in the kingdom. One of its the Ministry of Health, the public health authorities, the professional societies like cardiology, geriatric, my family medicine society as well was contributing. And the national clinical guidelines has been evolved so much to govern the practice of physicians and to let us, all of us, speak the same language of medicine across the board. And of course, now we are moving towards shifting our mentality from the childhood vaccination into a systematic vaccinations model, where we have identified our populations across the nation into different risk categories. So we have the elderly adults, as we speak today, and we focus on them today in this conference. And we have the pregnant ladies, the healthcare workers, the pilgrims, the patient with a chronic disease, and we have many of them. In fact, those patients who has immune compromised populations, and patients with a cardiovascular respiratory disease. These are the patients that we have to focus on and deliver and allocate all the resources and deliver all the services to protect them as a high-risk populations. So what are the immunization framework in the kingdom here? In fact, the Ministry of Health and Wiqaya, they have modulated a program and a framework that align with the international societies and international authorities, health authorities like the WHO and the CDC, and the regional one like the Gulf Regional Infectious Disease Variety. And of course, because we have our main feature of hosting the mass gathering in Hajj and Umrah, so that's why there is a special focus on mass gathering medicine as well. So these are the vaccinations that is recommended for all adults: influenza, COVID-19, Tdap, pneumococcal, human papillomavirus, hepatitis B, hepatitis A, MRI, MMR, and varicella, herpes zoster, RSV, meningococcal, and polio. So these are constitute the major component of the adult vaccinations that we are encountering. And if we just look into very specific, the national guideline that has a special feature to specify society recommendations. So the influenza, it's an annual vaccination that we promoted across the nationwide, and it is a seasonal one. So every year we get the new strain and the new proposed vaccines to be available to our elderly patients with our healthcare providers, pregnant women. The COVID-19 booster strategy based on the risk categories, the Tdap every 10 years, pneumococcal for 65 years and 50 to 65 years, HPV for adolescent, hepatitis B for healthcare workers, hepatitis A for the risk who are travelers, and herpes zoster, as we see, is for all adults above the age of 60 years and above, plus the patient with the comorbidities, RSV for 6 years and above, meningococcal for Hajj and Umrah, and polio, and so forth. So the main objective of why we are focusing on adult vaccination, one is to protect those people at risk in our community. This is number one. And this will ultimately prevent the complication of the disease and safeguard the patient from getting into the complications and improve the quality of life of those people at risk. Not only this, but also to relieve the burden on our healthcare system, because unnecessary hospitalizations and the comorbidities and mortalities that might take place. And this will secure our vision in the kingdom of having a vibrant society. So our vision has three major components. One is vibrant society, thriving economy, and then ambitious nation. So we started by مجتمع حيوي. So we protect المجتمع السعودي وبالتالي we إن شاء الله نصل إلى مجتمع حيوي بإذن الله. So I thought just to bring to you some of the national adult immunization initiative, which was quite successful, but still there is a lot of efforts has to be paid to improve the coverage and the vaccination. One is the influenza vaccine program, which is usually an annual, and we witness it on a yearly basis. And it is the good part of it, it is a free of charge in Ministry of Health, in the primary care, even in hospitals, and even in the private hospitals, and it's even covered by the insurance company, by the CHI. The workplace vaccination drivers. This is an initiative in all the workplaces, hospitals and non-hospitals, and the mandatory and encouraging vaccinations for the healthcare workers and Hajj personnel. So the influenza vaccine, why it is important? Because we have certain drivers that drive us to focus on influenza, and even for the adult vaccination. One is the mass gathering that we have, which is a huge number, millions of people in Hajj and millions of people throughout the year during the Umrah season. So we are confronted with this kind of challenge that has this kind of feature of bringing people together for one purpose, in one time, in one location. So that's why the dissemination of infections like influenza might take place. High diabetes prevalence. Saudi Arabia has been identified to be one of the top 10 countries in the high prevalence of diabetes, almost 16 to 20%. But this is the tip of the iceberg. Still, we have a lot of people in the community in the pre-diabetic state, and they are estimated to be about 37%. So we have 37% pre-diabetes and 20% diabetes. So we have more than 55% of our populations in the dysglycemic state. Not only this, but also the elderly population, they are in a rise now. And I'm sure all of us, we know, but it's the statistics. According to 2025, 2026, approximately we have 5% of our populations, which is translated into 1.8 million. But let's have a look and forecast in 2050 how much we are going to have. 2050 is a very crucial year. Why? Because there will be more than 20% of our population in the kingdom will be under the category of geriatric population. So it's almost 10 million people. So that's why we have to forecast the threat. We have to forecast the risk that we're encountering in the future. Moreover, respiratory disease in the rise also, like chronic obstructive airway disease, bronchial asthma, because of smoking and because of other confounders. The other initiative that we have is the Hajj and Umrah vaccination program, which is an amazing program. It's taken seriously by Ministry of Health and Ministry of Hajj, and we all know that meningitis, meningococcal vaccinations, influenza, COVID-19, yellow fever for certain groups of patients who are coming from certain areas, pneumococcal vaccination, especially for those elderly patients, and so forth. So the 2025 travel update has been changed totally to accommodate this kind of recommendations and to safeguard our population during Hajj. The third initiative, which is the vaccination for chronic disease, and this is another mindset that we are encountering now. We have a group of patients who have this kind of chronic disease, and because of this chronicity of the disease, they are immune compromised. Not only this, but also there are patients with chronic disease and that are growing elderly. So this is the combination, the deadly combinations of having these two diseases or these two features. So we have asthma, COPD, cardiovascular, and we know that 30% of our population in the kingdom, they die because of the cardiovascular mortality and morbidity related to these chronic disease, rheumatological cases, and diabetes, immune suppressant. So that's why the recent Thoracic Society and Heart Association, even the Saudi Society for Family Community Medicine, I'm sure other societies as well, they are getting aligned together to focus on these groups at risk and to recommend the influenza, pneumococcal, RSV, herpes zoster vaccination, COVID vaccines. So in spite of all these efforts, which has been aggressively implemented, in fact, still the vaccination coverage is below the optimal. So although we secure a very successful percentage of coverage in pediatric vaccination, children vaccination, which is reaching almost 90 to 95%, the adult vaccinations is as low as 30 to 37%. And certain categories of patients, categories of vaccinations like the pneumococcal vaccine, less than 30. Herpes zoster, in spite of all the efforts, is less than 14%. So what are the limiting resources and why we are confronted with the drawback in the low coverage of vaccine? Because limitation of awareness of adult vaccinations, lack of physician recommendation. We demonstrate a therapeutic inertia, in fact, because some of us would think that this is not my job to convince the patient to have the vaccine. It's the job of the others, for example. So that's why recommendation of vaccine should be universally applied across the board. So it will be the responsibility of every single doctor and every single healthcare provider, regardless of the specialty. The weak adult vaccination registry that we have and vaccination hesitancy and safety regarding concern about the vaccine and so forth. So there is a limitations in terms of reported awareness and knowledge levels among adults in Saudi. It is as low. The percentage of adults for awareness of adult vaccination is as low as 40 to 60%. Believe those people, they believe that the vaccine are made for children is still 50%. And I'm sure that all of us are encountered as a physicians, the parents that bring their kids and they're very meticulously coming to us to vaccinate the kids. But once it's come to them, to have their own adult vaccination, they have a lot of excuses and they have a remarkable hesitancy. The knowledge about the HPV is less than 40 and so forth. So these are the problems that we encountered. So we have the awareness is just as low as 40 to 60%. And this is the major complaint that we have to work on. The physician recommendation, and this is very crucial, and I think it's a call for actions that will play a very important role. So the adult reporting doctor never recommended vaccination. Patient claim about 67% of us, we did not talk to the patient about the vaccination. The lack of the counseling during the chronic disease, 58%, although we encounter patients with diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, heart disease, rheumatology cases, but they are only 58%. The major barriers of tertiary care or rheumatology patients reporting vaccine not ordered by the physician is 49%. But the physician recommendation, this is very solid and very important statement that if we recommend the vaccine for the patient, the acceptance will be as high as 3 to 6 folds. So this is a very encouraging, actions that we have to take. So the low vaccination rate in high-risk populations as well in diabetes, unfortunately, we are vaccinating only 27% of those people. And it was stated clearly by the American Diabetic Association, you will never deliver a state-of-art services for your patient with diabetes without considering two things, without considering the vaccinations and the smoking cessation as well. So this is to let you know how we are deficient in vaccinating those people at risk. Not only this, but also for the pregnant woman. During the pregnancy for influenza is as low as 1.8. So there is a major problem, in fact. The regions and accessibility and disparities between the urban and the rural areas. So that we focus our vaccinations on the urban people, cities, the major cities, but people in the rural area, they are so deficient And there is a discrepancy between the public versus the private sectors, plus or minus. And also there is some key barriers of the vaccinations in system level challenges, like the absence of integrated national adult vaccination registry, fragmented vaccination documentations across the board between the private and the government sector, and limited reminders recall. So that's why we have to use the technology that we have to remind patients and to convert the patient from inactive into active, proactive patient, so the patient will be an active participant with us. And lack of standards of and vaccinations, and there is a socio-economic barrier. But the good thing is that there is a huge strategic response by the Ministry of Health to improve and to strengthen the adult vaccinations. One is the digital health integrations with electronic reminder, expand the digital vaccine certifications, and also expand the guidelines. There is an initiative we have witnessed it regarding the RSV, the herpes zoster vaccine, and also where our healthcare system has been modified to ensure the healthy aging strategy, to a preventive geriatric strategy, and healthy aging, and so forth. So these are the priority recommendations which has been identified by many of the Saudi experts across the nationwide, across the different societies, across the different groups and specialties. They have identified the problem to or recommend to establish a unified national adult immunization strategy, expand the pharmacist-led vaccination, increase physician education and reminder, embedding vaccine checks into chronic disease clinics, strengthen public awareness campaign, and expanding insurance reimbursement, which is really, there is a lot of discrepancy and variability between different insurance companies. Some of them they cover the insurance of vaccines, and some of them they don't. And targeting elderly chronic populations, improve vaccine access in the rural region, and better surveillance. Surveillance is very important, and this will solve a huge problems in observing and controlling our practice, and using Hajj infrastructure as a moderator. So before I close in 2 minutes, I would like just to highlight a successful national campaign that the Saudi Society for Family and Community Medicine was so much involved. So this was started in 2022, and this is an example how the society can lead a national successful campaign and participate in improving the coverage, vaccination coverage for elderly. So the background was the adult vaccination report, adoption in Saudi was weak, and the only influenza and COVID-19 vaccination was showing some success, while pediatric, as we said, it was has a very good coverage, more than 95%. Regarding the shingles itself, our shingles disease, the MOH added shingles in the national immunization program, and this was a very solid step, in fact. And there is a global guidelines for shingles vaccine, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was the first country to implement in the Middle East to implement the shingles vaccinations. So there was a low shingles awareness among 50 years of age, which was almost 17%, and the patients are waiting for their HCP to open discussion, as we have mentioned in the previous studies, and the vaccine hesitancy after COVID-19, and most of the people, they are confronted with the vaccination fatigue. So we have vaccination hesitancy, poor recommendation by physicians, and vaccination fatigue by the community. So what we have done, we started the campaign. This was in 2022, in the first day of October, which is the International Day of Elderly Population. So we mobilized 100 Harley Davidson riders in Jeddah, Riyadh, and Dammam on the same day to advertise for this campaign. And then in Jeddah walkathons, this was in 2023, to increase the awareness. And we flew 750 drone in the sky of Riyadh, just to show certain statement and to highlight the importance of vaccination for those who are 50 years and above. And we had the pain art, Alam fi Lawha, to express about the post-herpetic neuralgia and how it is quite painful and making the patient dysfunctional. This is This is the picture you can see here. Faisal Malki, he was with us, and more than 2 million people witnesses online the inauguration of this gallery. And we had the old-timer football players, أعضاء المنتخب السعودي المعتزلين. We brought them in a contest. This was in October 2024. More than 19,000 people attended, and it was also promoting the vaccination. And for this, we have attained the Guinness record for the Saudi Society for Community Medicine لأفضل مشاركة مجتمعية للتعريف أو توعية بالتطعيمات لدى البالغين. So not only this, but also we have been going through the social media and the TV interviews, raising awareness for the adult vaccinations. And one of the very important one is with Faisal Malki, and the other interview was with Khalid Abdurrahman, who has had the shingles, and he said, أصبت بجروح في حياتي وأصبت بكسور وتألمت لكن عندي إصابتي بالحزام الناري كان الألم شديد. So this kind of statement from a social influencer went viral, and it promoted the vaccine of shingles to be the awareness jumped from 17% to 85%, and the coverage went all the way from almost 5%
Sorry
to
to interrupt
50%.
you, Dr. Ashraf.
Yes, I finished.
Yeah, but thank you.
Okay, so this is just to conclude, Mr. Chairman, that we have here a major gaps in still persistent in actual vaccination uptake and the public awareness in high-risk adult coverage in pneumococcal and shingles vaccinations and adult vaccine integrity. So our role is to protect our community, to support our national transformations, and to build, inshallah, a vibrant society. So it's not all about working hard, it's about working better this time. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashraf Amir, for a very nice presentation. Great efforts, especially with including community figures and social media figures in promoting for vaccination. Your last few slides are a very good segue for our next presentation with our speaker, Dr. Sulaiman Kassar. Dr. Sulaiman Kassar, he's a consultant geriatric medicine and head of geriatric medicine department, King Salman Hospital, and program director of geriatric medicine fellowship, Riyadh First Health Cluster. Dr. Sulaiman Al-Kassar will present shingles burden in older adults and the importance of vaccination. Welcome, Dr. Sulaiman, and congratulations on the fellowship program.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Thank you very much. We'll take it, inshallah, introducing me and this is clear. Showing up. Hello?
Your slides are clear.
All right, thank you very much. So, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today in the third annual Geriatric Medicine Conference. And today, actually, we will discuss an important topic and something that's really relevant in our population, especially in Saudi Arabia, and preventive medicine. The burden of shingle in older adults, it's very important, and we can prevent that. So, before I start, thank you, Dr. Asama, for introducing me. This is my disclaimer. Then we will start with the first slide. What is actually the story behind the shingles? More than 90% of adults above age 50 carry the Varicella zoster virus latent form. Why? Because when we are the disease. So after the primary infection, usually during the childhood, as we said, a chicken pox virus remain still in our body, and also real garden, as you can see here, for decade. So with age, that the cell immunity becomes herpes zoster or shingles. So shingles is an essential disease of aging immunity. It's not like a rare disease, and we will see in a couple of slides why. So what is the burden in shingles with age? Actually, the incidence of shingles increase after 50 years, as you can see in the graph here, but way more common when they reach 70. So we can clearly see the shingles incidence and post-herpetoneuralgia increase with age. So 50 increasing, but the peak will be in 70s. So what actually age-related decline immunity? The main driven behind these all shingles and the herpes zoster, it's the immunosenescence, that age-related decline in cellular immunity. So actually, Facilla zoster decline over time, but the virus reactivate increase, as you can see in the graph. So guess what? If you are taking a step away, how many people get حزام الناري in their life? Guess what? It's 1 out of 3. So 1 out of 3 individuals had the disease in their lifetime. So that's make the shingles, as we said before, it's not a rare disease. It's a major public health issue. So raising herpes, zoster, and post-herpetic neuralgia with the age. It's not only an incidence rate with the age, but severity of the duration also and the complication increase. If you got the disease when you are younger, the complication, the duration, it will be less than if you got it when you are older. So older adult, particularly vulnerable, and the post-herpetic neuralgia with can persist for even months, 2 years to getting the الحزام الناري. It's only the age. When we age, we will get the shingles, or no. So we have many risk factors. Although the age is the primary risk factor, several comorbidity further increase the risk of shingles. Diabetes, comorbidity, malignancy, cardiovascular, stroke, MI, autoimmune disease, and many things. But the key here is that not only the age is the main risk factor. So patient above 50 years diagnosed with COVID, what happened with shingles? Recent study has suggested an increased risk of shingles following the COVID-19, possibly related to the immune dysregulation. Though the increased risk appears a little bit high, we are talking here about 15 to 21 following the infection. So what actually the impact of the shingles? It's only skin rash, or pain, or tingling? No, it's actually behind all of these. It's affecting the quality of life of the patient. So when we age, the most important thing is the quality of life, being independent in your activity of daily living. This will impact if you got this disease. So will affect your sleep, will affect your quality of life, will social, will work, and also quality of life. So we're not talking here only about the rash. So let's talk about herpes zoster. So herpes zoster is caused by reactivation of Facilla zoster virus. This is the major complication. Let's talk about post-herpetic neuralgia, herpes zoster ophthalmics, and recurrent of the disease. And the question here is if I got the disease or I got vaccine, could I get the disease also again? Yes, but very, 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 very low percentage. So what actually the natural course of the herpes zoster? Disease usually beginning with prodromal phase, like burning, pain, tingling, skin sensation. Then we're going to acute phase, 2 to 4 weeks. Here it comes with painful rash, acute pain. Then we got to subacute and then post-herpetic neuralgia. The key here is we need to start the medication earlier. And most of our patient does not come in this acute phase or prodromal phase in the beginning of 72 hours. So That's why we are here today. That's why we're speaking about this lecture today for the prevention purpose. So post-herpetic neuralgia is the most common complication. It defined of pain persisting at least more than 90 days. Okay, so when they asked the people, they got post-herpetic neuralgia, and they compare it with other diseases such as malignancy, such as even not disease. When the women got a baby, they mentioned that this pain, it's worse than every pain they had in their life. So that's why it is a real deal. It is serious. Okay. As I mentioned before, if that affect their quality of life, definitely will disturb their emotion. Cognitive function will be declined, social functional, physical function, and many others part of their life. So the main purpose that will affect the disease will affect their quality of life. So affect multiple domain as we mentioned before. So big question. We are in Saudi Arabia. We have many patients. I'm not aware of the number or percentage, but we have many people got diabetes, right? We might be in the top of in the world. Not the top, but people get a lot of incidence of diabetes. So diabetes is the most important comorbidity associated with Shingrix. Patient with diabetes has high risk of Shingrix, post-herpetic neuralgia, and even get into the hospitalization. So, and also, if the patient got post-herpetic neuralgia, الحزام الناري, hemoglobin A1C will be increasing. Glycemic control will be missed. So, about, as I mentioned, factor for post-herpetic neuralgia, and even people with hemoglobin will increase. It can differ. 40% is the main point and the main purpose of this lecture. Why we have the vaccine? Because we have a limitation in current medication. As we mentioned before, patients should be there in the beginning of 72 hours to start the antiviral. Most of the patients miss this window. So treatment, and also in addition of that, treatment of post-herpetic neuralgia, it's never being by one medication. Yeah, sometimes we could give one medication, patient would get improved, but because of the severity of the pain and the duration, patient keep coming to your clinic and asking for pain medication. Okay. I already mentioned this slide. So let's talk about very important things. The vaccine, main purpose of the lecture. So the vaccine nowadays, it's combined, recombined, non-live vaccine. It's not like before. And such as Zoe 70 and 50. I will talk about the real deal here. In the beginning, in the first year after receiving the vaccine, people will get immune by 97%. And in the next 11 years, will reach to 87. So vaccine is it's not very important, it's essential. It's the only way to prevent the الحزام الناري nowadays is the vaccine. For sure, being a patient with the comorbidity, treating the rest of the comorbidity will help your patient, but we're talking here about 97%. So Shingrix, approximately, as I mentioned before, 97%. طبعا the vaccine will be above 50 years, 2 doses. First dose will be in 0 time limit. After that, we'll taking after 2 months. Unless patient is immunocompromised, we can start the vaccine since from 18 years, and we can give only 1 month apart. I already mentioned all of these. So what is the safety? Actually, like every vaccine, we have little amount pain, redness, swelling, myalgia, but what is the contraindication of the vaccine? The only contraindication that the patient has hypersensitivity from the vaccine or the command have with the vaccine. We can give the vaccine with the influenza, pneumococcal, and also DTaP. What is the guideline and recommendation in our country? So as I mentioned before, our guideline in Saudi Arabia right now, it's adult 50 years of age or older, 2 doses, 2 months apart, or adult 18 years with immunocompromised, 1 month apart. So vaccination against shingles is recommended for your patient, especially if they got diabetes, cardiovascular, asthma, COPD, and many comorbidity. So I will conclude my slide by this important slide. I usually mention that not only the physician, it's the only one role in the multidisciplinary team. Being a geriatric physician, being a primary healthcare physician, treating a geriatric population, it's never be a one-man power or one-man show. It's almost always multidisciplinary team. Sometime as a physician, yes, the slide is showing if you are a physician and talking to the people, increase from 25 to 74. I agree with this slide. Although I would recommend all the primary healthcare physician, nursing, pharmacists, everyone working in the hospital or primary healthcare, talking to the patient. And sometimes we have a real cases that I spoke to or the physician spoke to the patient and he refused or she refused to take the vaccine. When he got out of the clinic, if our nurses spoke to the patient, he will or she will agree to take the vaccine. So I agree with this line, although I encourage all of you, whatever the subspecialty, to speak about the vaccine. And I will conclude my slide by this. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Tarat and Dr. Samah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suleiman. Excellent presentation. And just want to mention that an excellent timing in closing the presentation, actually. Just want to mention that I got recently meeting with a group of vaccine experts. And apparently in Saudi Arabia, we ranked 4th globally in terms of, reaching a significant number of older adults who are eligible for this vaccine. So looking into what's been done in the past, it seems like a lot of efforts being fruitful. Okay, so let's move to the next presentation with the topic of burden of vaccine preventable diseases in the older adults. That is presented by Dr. Omar Khoja. Dr. Omar is a consultant of preventive medicine and public health. He is the director of vaccine preventable diseases at the Public Health Authority in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Dr. Omar Khoja, the virtual floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Trad. And first of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أسعد الله صباحكم جميعا, and good morning for everyone. And I would like to thank the society, the Saudi Geriatric Society, for the invitation to this prestigious conference. And it's my pleasure to be here today with you to discuss the burden of the vaccine preventable disease in older adults. No conflict of interest to declare, and my objective, I will go with you to understand the burden of the vaccine preventable diseases in older adults and go briefly in the timeline of the national immunization program in the kingdom, and emphasizing that the strategy of the life course immunization in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Lastly, I will mention the impact of the vaccination and expanded program on immunization, the ABIs, and nowadays we call it as essential program of immunization. And this is would be, just in brief, globally. And the first part of my lecture is the understanding the burden of the vaccine preventable disease. Let's we go historically perspective. As you can see here in these photos, we have two images, historical images. The Egyptian stele, this before 14th century BC, showing what is believed to be a person with the polio. And this is in the left side. And in the right side, as you can see, the smallpox illustration in Japanese manuscript. That means that the vaccine preventable disease affect the humanity since long time and long centuries. Let's we go in this slide. As you can see here, this data from Australia showing us that the burden of the vaccine preventable diseases. The number of the cases, and when go to the right, and the y-axis, this is the number of the cases per population, and when the x-axis, the number of the death with the population, and shows when you go up and the right, you will see the influenza. In fact, influenza disease and the other diseases like pneumococcal, Shingrix, and meningococcal, those diseases is significantly impact the older adults. And the size of the bubble indicate the population level burden, the DALY. It's not only the mortality, it's very important to mention that the life quality, as the other colleagues mentioned in the slide, in the other lectures. As you can see here, in the influenza, the bubble is, the size of bubble is the biggest one, then the pneumococcal disease, then Shingrix and meningococcal disease, and of course HPV HPV, and as you can see here, in the Saudi Arabia, it's only 4 girls. And this studies is in 2015, and at that time the COVID and RSV vaccine doesn't exist. I will go with you briefly in the few examples shows us the increasing of the impact of the infectious disease with the age group. As you can see here, the death associated with the Clostridium deficiency infection in Fairland, then age 65 years and above, the green line that you can see, it's comparing to the other age groups, clearly shows us that the impact of the Clostridium deficiency infection increasing with the age with older adults. And the other example is the incidence of herpes zoster and post-herpetic neuralgia in Sweden. As you can see here, the incidence of the herpes zoster and post-herpetic neuralgia increasing with the age for all ages group. And the other example, the COVID associated hospitalization by age group. This is from US data, and as you can see here, that the age group 80 plus and is higher incidence hospitalization rate comparing to the other age groups. This leads us to very important question: why more disease in older adults? There is many factors playing important role to this, and I would like to mention some of these factors: malnutrition in older adults, polypharmacies, anatomical changes. As you can see here in the photo, anatomical changes in the organs, brain, lung, and the other organs. And what is the important one is the skin. The skin is the first layer to prevent the bacterial infection. And the older adult, the skin the skin is very fragile and frail, not like the younger population. And the other important thing, it will weaken immune response. And the consequences of immune senescence, as mentioned in early lecture, this consequences, increasing the susceptibility to infection and prolonged post-infection recovery, and with very important also the comorbidities, and the comorbidities playing important role in older adults. As you can see here in the right side chart, the prevalence of multiple comorbidity increased with the age. For example, 65 years older, at 80% of them at least have one disorder, and around 70% have two disorders. And those data shows us the prevalence of the comorbidities clearly increase with the age, not even the number of the disorders. And in the left chart from the CDC shows us that 60 to 74 age group, more than half of them have at least one medical condition. I will go with but it's not just about the age. And as Prof. Asim mentioned earlier, frailty, we go with the biological age, or we go with the chronological age. Frailty, as all we know, geriatric syndromes, it's characterized by multi-system dysregulation, increase the vulnerability for adverse health outcomes. What I would like to mention here, what is the impact of frailties in the vaccine effectiveness? As you can see here in this study, the geometric mean by frailties in the BCV vaccines, and then it shows us clearly that with the frailty severity, the geometric mean titer will decrease in the BCV vaccines and also in the influenza. And this will lead us to the rate of the influenza. It will be higher in the frail status comparing to non-frail population. And also in the COVID vaccine effectiveness. It shows us clearly that the effectiveness of the vaccine, it affected by the frailty status. Why we vaccinate older adult? Very important is to prevent the infection, to prevent hospitalization, and also to prevent the morbidities and stroke, MI, and cardiovascular disease. And one of the well-known research regarding to the vaccine, influenza vaccine, to prevent the second attack of the myocardial infarction or exacerbation of myocardial fractions. And the other prevent disability and prevent the falls. I put these two examples of the vaccine, of influenza vaccination, reduce the bacterial pneumonia. This is indirectly. And also in the varicella zoster vaccination, reduce the dementia. In this part, we will go to what is the strategy we use for older adult, to immunization older adult. It's very important that vaccinate older adult before they become older and before they become sick. And this is the first strategy in the older adult immunization. The second one is the vaccination children. Vaccination children to make a herd immunity, that's to help the older adults. And this is clear phenomena. You can see it in BCV vaccine. In this example, the impact of the BCV vaccine in children, in the pediatric in children, 4 years after the introduction of the vaccine in the UK, as you can see, not the incidence rate decrease only in the pediatric age group, even in the older adult age group. And that's why, because the BCV decrease the colonization of the pneumococcal infection in the children. The third strategy, and it's very important one, vaccinate the healthcare workers. And those example and researches shows us that the benefit of the vaccination healthcare worker with the flu vaccine and the impact upon the patient mortality. And it's clearly shows us that the impact with the patient mortality with the healthcare vaccinated with the flu vaccine, regardless that the status of vaccination in the patient. And the last strategy, the vaccine for aging immune system, is the vaccine for adult work perfectly in the elderly. That's not in all cases. As you can see, the effectiveness of adjuvant vaccine and herpes zoster vaccine is increased the efficacy compared to the previous one. High dose influenza vaccine compared to the standard dose in the older adult is better effectiveness, and intradermal doses and multiple doses. And the very important strategy I would like to mention here, it is the implementation of the life course immunization in the immunization program. The immunization program in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia developed and hugely in the past 50 years. Nowadays, the National Vaccine Registry, it is the National Vaccine Registry System, tracking all vaccine records in the kingdom, and it's and now around 38 million clients in this system, and around 200 million vaccine record in the system. And this system give us the huge infrastructure in the digital infrastructure give us the delivery of the surface of the vaccine. It's very useful in the population, and it's easy for them to can book the appointment to see the nearest clinic available with the vaccine and to take the vaccine and directly reflect to the certificate in the apps. And in the other hand, the healthcare working in the clinics, it's easy. It's fully integrated with the Raqim, which is the HIS system for all healthcare centers, primary healthcare centers in the kingdom, and it's directly reflect to the NVR system. And with this huge digital infrastructure, help us to manage the program as from the national level and even from the regional level and sub-regional level, to see and to implement the integration with the program with the different platforms, and to make the interventions very successfully, to make sure that the service delivery and the program of the immunization in the kingdom is timely, equitable, and effective for all population. And this timeline shows us that the improvement of the national vaccine immunization program in the kingdom. I will not go too much in this slide. And maybe I'd like to mention 2018, the adult immunization schedule was published, and 2019, BCV introduced as the part of the national immunization program, and COVID, herpes zoster, and so on. Maybe the last vaccine is 2024 for elderly, the RSV vaccine, and the kingdom was the top 10 countries world introducing the vaccine. In this slide, I will go with what is the approaches you can to implement the life course immunization. As I mentioned, as the Prof. Ashraf mentioned in the previous lecture, the life course immunization is give the vaccine to all age stages in the life. A unified national aligned schedule for children and adult vaccination. All children and adult immunization registry within the National Vaccine Registry, integrated adult vaccination into the essential preventive services, and improve the surveillance of the burden of the disease, and increase the awareness about the benefit of the life course immunization. As you can see here, this is the last World Immunization Weeks in 2026 for every generation vaccine work, and many initiatives have been encouraging and to increase the knowledge of the population about the vaccine and the vaccine for all ages. the last part of my lecture, I will go with the impact of vaccination. This, as you can see here, this is the first schedule published by WHO for immunization at 1961, and this schedule, even it's not only for infancy, it's also into adolescent, as you can see here, 10 to 14 years. After 50 years of the ABI programs, the global immunization efforts have saved more than 150 million lives. And the measles vaccination account for 60% of lives saved due to immunization. 40% of the reduction in the infant deaths globally is directly due to vaccination. That leads us that how the vaccination increased the life expectancy. In 2024, a child younger than 10 years is 40% more likely to survive to their next birthday than if no vaccination had occurred since 1974. As you can see here in those charts, the impact of the immunization for past 50 years and to death averted. The yellow one is the measles and the red one is the tetanus, the purple pertussis, and the navy blue tuberculosis. The light blue is Haemophilus influenzae, and the green one is the poliomyelitis. And 9 million life years gains due to vaccination. More than 10 billion years of life of full health due to the vaccination. And this is my last slide. Immunization has one of the highest return on investment among social, economic, and health well-being tools. The immunization returns on investment more than 20x. Every single US dollar invest return 20 to 50 US dollar. Crucial medical countermeasure platform for global health security. And the vaccination is the most effective intervention to mitigate climate-related health risk. More than 50 million number of the projected death averted from 2021 to 2030. And more than 700 billions US dollar projected to economical benefit from 2021 to 2030. By this, I will end my lecture and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Khoja. Thank you so much for this very informative and eye-opener actually presentation. Great information. Thank you. And now I will present Dr. Majid Al-Thaqafi, who's a consultant of public health and epidemiology director of occupational health, infection prevention and control department at King Abdulaziz Medical City, Saudi Arabia. Welcome, Dr. Majid Al-Thaqafi. He will present investigating the correlation between shingles and diabetes mellitus and cardiovascular disease.
Can you see my slide, please?
Yes, أيوة دكتور نقدر نشوف الله يعطيك.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلق الله محمد بن عبد الله عليه أفضل الصلاة والتسليم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Jami'an. Thank you very much for the organization and scientific committee to invite me in this distinguished meeting. And hopefully we have next slides. We could have an overview about the importance of the herpes zoster prevention, focusing about diabetes and cardiovascular diseases patients here in the kingdom. So simply, that's just I would like to provide an overview about the story of shingles, how they started and how it happened. And as you know that usually the majority of children or during our childhood will have the infection of for the varicella infection, which is the same that virus later would be caused herpes zoster. And either with the vaccines for the varicella that we can control the disease, or when get infected, then the control of the primary infection later will have a latent period in the ganglion of our body, and later whenever that affect the immune system, for example, diabetes, immunogenesis, trauma, any psychological problem, that could irritate and lead to the reactivation of the virus again and causing the zoster infection. Next, please.
Can we have the next slide for Dr. Majid, please? Thank you.
Can you move the next slide, please? Sorry.
Dr. Majid, are you not sharing from your computer?
Yeah, I'm sharing from my computer, yes.
You're in full control, doctor.
It doesn't work. Can you help me, please? Sorry.
Can we share from our side, doctor?
Yeah, I will stop the sharing, please. So basically, the virus would be, as we mentioned, that someone infected that will be accumulated and would be in latent period at the ganglion of our body, and whenever we have any risk factor, that will stimulate and make it the virus irritant, so would be again causing the infection for herpes zoster as a dermatome infection that will cause a specific part of our body. There is a lot of factors that could lead to stimulate this virus, either as we mentioned, the immunosenescence, was something that related to the aging process, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, etc. All these will lead to the infection will be causing the herpes zoster infection. Next, please. Yeah, next, please. Yep. So this is the primary, the age-related decline in immunity. When someone infected during childhood will have the chickenpox, then the body will develop the immunity against of the varicella virus, which is usually we get in the blood, IgG, and will have a protective level that we assume that everyone would be immune against of the infection. With time, that there is a possibility that people could having the reactivation of the virus. However, our immunity, and if someone immunocompetent will not have the chance to develop immunity. However, when we reach a level of age, or we have immunocompromised status, definitely that will help the virus that again to carry causing the herpes zoster. Again, the varicella zoster virus specific cellular immunity, which is that fighting this virus, will decline with age. Unfortunately, the herpes zoster can be developed. Again, next, please. So, according to the risk factor that which is causing the herpes zoster to develop, there is a lot of several factors and comorbidity, and psychological factors considered one of the important factors causing the increased risk of herpes zoster. If you can see in this slide, there is increase of, for example, with the depression to 23%, to psychological trauma to 200%. So, you know, through these different percentages of risk that could develop herpes zoster that lead to increase the herpes zoster infections. Asthma, it's common here in the kingdom, diabetes mellitus, chronic disease of kidney and cardiovascular COPD, all these will increase the risk of herpes zoster more than 25% for those patients specifically. Next, please.
Doctor, you have a control now.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you. So if we focus about the diabetes, that will lead to the accessibility of the increase of the infection simply because of the two reasons. As we, based on the pathophysiology of the diabetes affected the herpes zoster related to the elevated blood sugar that could suppress the effect of the immune system. So basically, the virus would be activated. And as we mentioned for the previous slide, the varicella zoster viruses, specific cell mediated immunity will be lowered with the aging process for a process called immunosenescence. And as you know, the kingdom considered one of the highest prevalence of diabetes. Here in the Middle East, we consider the second highest country in the Middle East having diabetes, and we rank it, unfortunately, 10 for the diabetes in the world. Definitely, that will be reflected to the effect of the the burden to the health system and causing of the comorbidities and the complication of diabetes, and one of that considered risky for this group developing of the herpes zoster. So in the kingdom, almost 21% of herpes zoster cases considered as a diabetic, and this is the message for everyone that if someone discover a herpes zoster case for a patient, immediately to screen them for diabetes. And the increase of risk of that